Have you ever been told, "You look younger than your age"? While most would brush it off as a flattering comment, there's a deeper spiritual essence to such compliments. This video delves into the profound spiritual meanings behind why some people appear more youthful than their age. It's not merely about genetics or skincare, but about an evolved soul, a deeper harmony with life, and an energy that transcends the physical realm. Together, we will explore 8 spiritual reasons that may explain this phenomenon, intertwining these insights with personal reflections, examples, and lessons to carry forward. The timeless energy of old souls, a story of wisdom and renewal. Once upon a time, in a tranquil monastery nestled amidst the Himalayan mountains, a curious disciple named Arjun approached his teacher, an elderly monk with a serene face that seemed untouched by time. "Master," Arjun asked one day, "how is it that you look so radiant, so youthful, while the years weigh heavily on the rest of us?" The master chuckled, his laughter soft and unhurried like the rippling of a stream. "Ah, my child," he replied, "true youth has little to do with the body and everything to do with the soul. Let me share a story with you, one that spans across lifetimes, a tale from the past. Long ago, in a bustling kingdom, there lived a wise elder named Paran. Though his hair was silver and his face lined with age, Paran exuded an inexplicable energy. He had seen the rise and fall of empires, witnessed the fragility of human greed, and yet remained unshaken. People from far and wide sought his counsel, marveling at his clarity and peace. To the villagers, Paran was more than a sage. He was a living example of resilience and youthfulness, untouched by the ravages of time. Among the many visitors was a young prince named Jai, burdened by the weight of his royal duties. Jai's heart was restless, his mind constantly clouded with anxieties about war, betrayal, and the future. One day, in desperation, he sought out Paran. "Teach me your secret, O wise one," the prince implored. "How do you maintain such serenity amidst life storms? I feel as though the years are slipping through my fingers like sand, and I grow weary with every passing moment." Paran smiled, gesturing for the prince to sit beside him. "Youth is not a matter of time but of perspective," he said. "Let me tell you the principles that have guided me and kept my soul young. Lesson 1: The power of forgiveness." Paran began his story. "When I was younger, I harbored a deep grudge against a man who wronged me. For years, his betrayal consumed my thoughts, stealing my peace. One day, an old monk told me, carrying anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. I let go of my resentment that day, and I felt lighter, freer." The prince was puzzled. "But how can one forgive such deep wounds?" "Forgiveness is not for them, young prince. It is for you," Paran explained. "When you release the burden of anger, you make space for joy and renewal. It is in that space that your soul begins to rejuvenate." Centuries later, a modern-day icon would echo this wisdom: Oprah Winfrey, a woman whose life journey mirrored the power of forgiveness. Born into poverty and suffering unspeakable trauma, Oprah rose to become one of the most influential women in the world. She often said, "Forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been any different." By choosing forgiveness, Oprah transformed her pain into purpose, radiating a youthful energy that continues to inspire millions. Lesson 2: Compassion as a fountain of youth. Paran continued, "Another secret to youthfulness lies in compassion. When you open your heart to others, their joy becomes your joy, and their pain your purpose. Compassion keeps the soul vibrant, for it connects you to the boundless energy of the universe." The prince listened intently, recalling the many times he had turned away from the pleas of his people, consumed by his own worries. "But does compassion not drain one's energy?" he asked. "On the contrary," Paran replied, "compassion replenishes the soul. It releases oxytocin, the hormone of love and connection, which nourishes both body and mind. Have you ever seen a mother caring for her child? Her face, though tired, glows with love. Centuries later, the Dalai Lama, a beacon of compassion, would become a living testament to this principle. Despite his age and the immense challenges of exile, his laughter and playful demeanor have captivated the world. In his teachings, he reminds us that compassion is not a burden but a source of vitality. His face, lined with years but glowing with peace, reflects the profound truth that love and kindness are the ultimate rejuvenators. Lesson 3. The practice of mindfulness. Puran then spoke of mindfulness. Life is fleeting, young prince. To dwell on the past or worry about the future is to miss the beauty of the present moment. A soul that lives in the now is forever young. He demonstrated by picking up a leaf and examining its intricate veins, its delicate structure. When you truly see, hear, and feel the present, you connect with the eternal. Time loses its hold on you. The prince tried it himself, focusing on the rustling of leaves and the warmth of the sun. For the first time in years, his heart felt lighter, as if freed from invisible chains. In today's world, mindfulness has become a cornerstone of self-care, with scientific studies proving its benefits. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, begins his mornings with mindfulness meditation, crediting the practice with helping him manage stress and maintain clarity in his demanding role. His calm demeanor and sharp focus are modern examples of how living in the present nurtures not just the soul but the body as well. Lesson 4. The wisdom of letting go. As the sun began to set, Puran shared his final lesson. Let go of what you cannot control, and you will find freedom. Attachment to outcomes, possessions, and even relationships creates suffering. Release these chains, and your spirit will soar. The prince pondered this deeply, realizing how his attachment to power and control had drained him. Over time, he began to embrace uncertainty, trusting in the natural flow of life. This shift in perspective brought him not only peace but also a renewed sense of energy. In our age, this principle finds resonance in leaders like Jeff Bezos, who advocates for adaptability and resilience. The world changes, Bezos once said. You need to be willing to let go of old certainties and embrace what comes next. His ability to pivot and evolve has kept Amazon at the forefront of innovation, mirroring the timeless wisdom of detachment. The transformation of the prince. Years passed, and Prince Jai became a ruler beloved by his people. His youthful vigor, once eroded by stress and fear, was restored through the lessons of forgiveness, compassion, mindfulness, and letting go. His face, though touched by age, radiated a serenity that inspired all who saw him. One day, he returned to Puran and bowed deeply. You have not only taught me to rule but to live, he said. How can I repay you? Puran smiled, his eyes twinkling, by passing these truths on to others. For wisdom shared is wisdom multiplied, a message for the modern soul. The story of Prince Jai and Puran transcends time and culture, resonating with the challenges we face today. In a world obsessed with youth and external appearances, it reminds us that true vitality comes from within. By forgiving, showing compassion, practicing mindfulness, and letting go, we can reclaim the energy of our souls and radiate a timeless beauty that inspires others. The examples of the Dalai Lama, Oprah Winfrey, and modern leaders like Tim Cook and Jeff Bezos reinforce these truths, proving that the wisdom of old souls is as relevant now as it was centuries ago. Whether you are a ruler, a sage, or an everyday seeker, the path to youthful energy is always within reach, waiting for you to embrace it. And so, the master in the Himalayan monastery concluded his tale. The disciple Arjun, his heart full of understanding, bowed deeply, for in the wisdom of his teacher, he glimpsed the eternal truth. The soul, when nurtured, never grows old, carries the boundless energy of life itself, radiating light in a world that often forgets its source. The eternal youth of the soul. In a quiet village nestled between misty mountains, there was a legend of an ancient monastery where monks never seemed to age. Their skin, though weathered by time, glowed with an otherworldly light, and their eyes sparkled like stars in the night sky. People traveled from distant lands to seek the secrets of their youthfulness, but none could grasp the mysteries they guarded so carefully. Among the seekers was a young woman named Amara. She had heard of the monastery from a wandering storyteller who spoke of its monks as beings touched by the divine. Amara, disillusioned by the passing years and haunted by the shadows of her past, set out on a journey to uncover the truth. If they can remain untouched by time, she thought, perhaps I can find freedom from the burdens that weigh me down. Her journey led her through perilous forests, across vast deserts, and finally to the monastery, perched on the edge of a cliff where the clouds met the earth. The air was thick with mystery, and the silence was broken only by the whispers of the wind. The guardian of the gate. At the gate of the monastery stood a serene figure, an elderly monk with silver hair that gleamed like moonlight. His face bore the marks of age, yet he radiated an inexplicable vitality. His presence alone made Amara hesitate, as if she were standing before a being who could see into the depths of her soul. "What brings you here, child?" he asked, his voice as calm as a still lake. "I seek the secret of eternal youth," Amara replied, her voice trembling. "I want to feel alive again, to shed the weight of my regrets." The monk studied her for a moment before nodding. "Very well, you may enter, but know this, the secret you seek is not what you think it is." With that, he opened the gate, and Amara stepped into a world unlike any she had known. The first mystery, forgiveness. Inside the monastery, Amara was greeted by the sound of soft chanting and the sight of monks tending to lush gardens. She was led to an ancient courtyard where a monk sat beneath a sprawling tree. His face was lined with age, yet his eyes gleamed with the innocence of a child. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a stone bench. "You wish to know the secret of eternal youth? Then tell me, what burdens your soul?" Amara hesitated before speaking. "I carry anger," she admitted. "Anger at those who betrayed me, at those who hurt me." The monk smiled gently. "Anger is a heavy burden, child, consumes the soul, draining the very essence of life. To be free, you must forgive not for their sake, but for your own." He plucked a dry leaf from the ground and crumbled it in his hand. "This leaf, brittle and lifeless, is what anger does to the soul, but forgiveness," he said, releasing the fragments into the wind, "is the wind that carries it away." Amara felt tears welling in her eyes. She had never considered forgiveness as a gift to herself. That night, she sat in meditation, recalling the faces of those who had wronged her. One by one, she released them, feeling a lightness she hadn't known in years. The second mystery, compassion. The next morning, Amara was led to the monastery's kitchen, where an elderly woman prepared meals for the monks. Her hands, though wrinkled, moved with the grace of a dancer, and her face glowed with kindness. "Come, help me," the woman said, handing Amara a basket of vegetables. As they worked, the woman spoke of the joy she found in serving others. "Compassion is a fountain of youth," she said. "When you open your heart to others, you are nourished by their joy. It's like a fire that warms you without ever burning out." Amara observed how the monks interacted with one another, their faces alight with laughter and care. She realized that compassion wasn't just an act. It was a way of life, a force that connected them to something greater than themselves. That day, Amara offered to help an injured bird she found in the garden. As she tended to its wounds, she felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a sense of renewal that words could not describe. The third mystery, mindfulness. On the third day, a young monk led Amara to a quiet lake nestled within the monastery grounds. "Sit," he instructed. "Observe the water." Amara did as she was told, watching as the surface reflected the sky above. First, her mind wandered to her worries and regrets, but the monk's voice brought her back. "Do you see how the water reflects only what is before it?" he asked, It does not cling to the past or anticipate the future. It exists in the moment, fully and without resistance. Amara nodded, her heart stirring with understanding. The monk continued, "When you live in the present, you free yourself from the chains of time. This is the essence of mindfulness." She spent hours at the lake, learning to quiet her mind and immerse herself in the beauty of the moment. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive. The fourth mystery, letting go. As the days passed, Amara noticed that the monks carried very little with them, no excess possessions, no unnecessary attachments. Intrigued, she approached the monk who had greeted her at the gate. "Why do you carry so little?" she asked. He smiled. "Attachments weigh us down, child. They tie us to a world that is ever-changing, causing suffering when we cling to what must inevitably pass." He led her to a cliff overlooking the valley. In his hand was a lantern. "This lantern represents your attachments. Now, release it." Amara hesitated, but as she let the lantern drift into the wind, she felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. She realized that her fear of losing things had kept her from truly living. The revelation. On her final day at the monastery, the elder monk summoned Amara. "You have learned much," he said, "but do you understand the true secret of eternal youth?" Amara thought for a moment before replying. "It's not about defying time or clinging to life. It's about freeing the soul from the burdens that age it: anger, selfishness, fear, and regret." The monk smiled. "Indeed, youth is not a matter of years. It is a state of being. When the soul is light, it shines through the body, regardless of age." Amara left the monastery transformed. Though the years would continue to pass, her heart was unburdened, her spirit alive. She carried the wisdom of the monks with her, sharing it with those she met, and in doing so, she became a beacon of light in a world weighed down by darkness. And so, the legend of the monastery lived on, not as a place of magic, but as a symbol of the timeless power of a free and joyful soul. Amara's journey to the monastery was not just a tale of personal transformation, but also a window into timeless Buddhist teachings. The monks' lessons on forgiveness, compassion, mindfulness, and letting go mirrored the deep spiritual truths shared by the Buddha himself. Let us explore these principles further through stories from Buddhist traditions, each carrying a thread of wisdom that unravels the mysteries of a youthful and liberated soul. The mystery of forgiveness, the Buddha and Angulimala. One of the most striking stories of forgiveness in Buddhist teachings is the tale of Angulimala, a feared bandit whose name means garland of fingers. Angulimala roamed the forests, terrorizing travelers and killing them to collect their fingers as trophies. His actions were driven by hatred and manipulation. But deep down, he was a man lost in anger and delusion. When the Buddha learned of Angulimala's deeds, he decided to intervene. Despite warnings from villagers, the Buddha approached the bandit calmly. Angulimala, seeing the Buddha's serene demeanor, attempted to harm him but found himself unable to catch up. No matter how hard he ran, exhausted and confused, he cried out, "Stop, monk!" The Buddha turned and said, "I have stopped. Angulimala, it is you who have not stopped." The words pierced through Angulimala's anger, prompting him to reflect on his actions. Moved by the Buddha's compassion, he abandoned his life of violence, sought forgiveness, and became one of the Buddha's most devoted followers. Connection to Amara's story. The monk's emphasis on forgiveness resonates with the Buddha's teachings. Just as the Buddha forgave and transformed Angulimala, Amara discovered the power of letting go of anger for her own liberation. Forgiveness isn't just about absolving others, it's about unburdening the heart. Lesson: even the most destructive souls can find redemption through compassion and understanding. Forgiveness liberates both the giver and the receiver, opening the door to inner peace. The mystery of compassion, the Bodhisattva's sacrifice. One of the most famous Buddhist stories about compassion is the tale of Prince Vesantara, a previous incarnation of the Buddha, Prince Vesantara was known for his boundless generosity. In his quest to cultivate the perfection of giving, he gave away everything he owned, including his kingdom, his children, and even his wife. His actions were misunderstood and criticized by many, yet his sacrifices embodied the essence of compassion. Prince Vesantara believed that true happiness came from alleviating the suffering of others, even if it meant personal loss. His story inspires countless Buddhists to practice compassion and generosity as paths to spiritual growth. Connection to Amara's story. The elderly woman at the monastery who radiated kindness mirrored the spirit of Prince Vesantara. Compassion, as Amara learned, nourishes the soul and keeps it youthful by forging connections with others. The act of selfless giving, whether grand or small, replenishes the giver as much as the recipient. Lesson: compassion is a powerful force that transcends material possessions. It enriches the soul, creating a deep reservoir of joy and vitality. The mystery of mindfulness, the Buddha's teaching on the present moment. In one of his most well-known teachings, the Buddha emphasized the importance of living in the present moment. He used the analogy of a lute to explain mindfulness. He said, "If the strings are too tight, they will snap. If they are too loose, they will not play. Harmony lies in the balance." This teaching is encapsulated in the story of Kisa Gautami, a woman devastated by the death of her young child. She sought the Buddha, begging him to bring her child back to life. The Buddha told her he could help, but first, she must bring him a mustard seed from a household where no one had ever experienced death. Kisa Gautami went from house to house but found that every family had lost someone. Gradually, she realized that death was a natural part of life. With the Buddha's guidance, she learned to live in the present, accepting the impermanence of life. This acceptance freed her from suffering and brought her peace. Connection to Amara's story. The young monk's lesson at the lake reflected the Buddha's teaching on mindfulness. By observing the stillness of the water, Amara learned to let go of her regrets and anxieties, finding harmony in the present moment. Lesson: the present moment is the only reality. Mindfulness helps us embrace life as it is, freeing us from the suffering caused by clinging to the past or fearing the future. The mystery of letting go. Siddhartha's renunciation. The Buddha's own life story is a profound example of letting go. Born as Prince Siddhartha, he had every material comfort imaginable: wealth, power, and luxury. Yet, Siddhartha felt an emptiness that none of these things could fill. When he encountered the realities of sickness, old age, and death, he realized that worldly attachments were fleeting. Siddhartha renounced his royal life, leaving behind his family and palace to seek the truth of existence. Through years of meditation and self-discovery, he attained enlightenment and became the Buddha. By letting go of his attachments, he found a deeper, eternal joy that no material possession could provide. Connection to Amara's story. Amara's act of releasing the lantern symbolized her own renunciation of attachments. Just as Siddhartha freed himself from the illusions of material life, Amara discovered the freedom and lightness that come from letting go. Lesson: letting go of attachments doesn't mean abandoning life. It means embracing it without clinging. Freedom lies in understanding that everything is impermanent. The final mystery: the interconnectedness of all life. One evening, as Amara prepared to leave the monastery, the elder monk shared a final teaching. He told her the story of Indra's net, a metaphor from Buddhist philosophy. Indra's net is an infinite web of interconnected jewels, each reflecting every other jewel in the net. This symbolizes the interdependence of all beings and the universe. Your soul is a jewel in this net. The monk said, your forgiveness, compassion, and mindfulness ripple through the web, touching countless lives. Youthfulness is not about how you look, but about how your energy flows into the world. Amara understood that her transformation wasn't just for herself. The joy and peace she carried would influence everyone she encountered, just as the monks had influenced her, bringing the mysteries to life. These stories from Buddhist tradition reveal profound truths about the nature of youthfulness, wisdom, and liberation. Amara's journey was not merely personal, it was universal, echoing the lessons of great teachers and enlightened beings throughout history. The Buddha, Prince Vesantara, Angulimala, and countless others show us that eternal youth is not a physical state but a spiritual one. It is the result of a soul free from anger, greed, and attachment, a soul that radiates compassion, mindfulness, and love. For those who seek to unlock these mysteries, the path is clear: forgive, be kind, live in the moment, and let go. In doing so, you too may find the eternal light of the soul shining within you.